Imagine being the most powerful man in Britain, a king crowned by divine right, ruler of an empire that stretched across continents. Now imagine forgetting who you are. This is the story of King George III, the king who spoke to angels, argued with trees, and mistook ordinary farmers for foreign royalty, a monarch whose mind betrayed him and whose illness quietly reshaped the future of Britain. George became king in 1760 at just 22 years old. He was not the flamboyant, scandal-ridden ruler people expected. He was devoted to his wife, faithful, deeply religious, and determined to rule with morality and duty. He called himself a king born and educated in Britain, proud to be connected to his people. To the public, he appeared stable, thoughtful, and human. But behind palace walls, something was slowly going wrong. In the early years of his reign, George began suffering strange physical symptoms, severe stomach pain, periods of exhaustion, sleepless nights where his thoughts raced and refused to slow. At first, these episodes passed. Doctors dismissed them as stress or digestive trouble. After all, kings were not supposed to be fragile, but in 1788, everything changed. George fell into what witnesses later described as a terrifying mental collapse. His behavior became erratic and impossible to ignore. He began speaking non-stop, hours at a time, words pouring out of him so fast they lost all meaning. He jumped from topic to topic without pause. He laughed, cried, prayed, and argued with people who were not there. He claimed angels were visiting him, that God was speaking directly to him, that trees outside his window were whispering secrets. At one point, he encountered an ordinary farmer and became convinced he was foreign royalty. The king bowed respectfully, believing himself in the presence of greatness. This was not eccentric behavior. This was profound mental illness. The court was thrown into panic. How do you rule an empire when the king cannot control his own thoughts? The doctors were summoned. But medicine in the 18th century was cruel, primitive, and dangerous. Mental illness was not understood. It was feared, and often punished. George was restrained, strapped into chairs, locked into padded rooms. Doctors applied blistering chemicals to his skin, believing pain would drive out madness. They forced purging and bleeding to balance his body. They administered medicines containing mercury and arsenic. Treatments meant to cure him likely poisoned him instead. The king screamed, he begged, he wept, and the men charged with saving him held him down. Outside the palace, rumors spread. London buzzed with whispers of a mad king. Satirical cartoons appeared, mocking the monarch who had lost his mind. Inside Parliament, a terrifying question loomed. What happens when a king cannot rule? Britain had never truly faced this before. Removing a monarch was unthinkable, but allowing a broken king to remain in power was dangerous. As George's condition worsened, debates raged behind closed doors. Some believed he might recover. Others feared he never would. For a brief time, hope returned. George showed signs of improvement. His speech slowed. His thoughts seemed clearer. The nation breathed again. But the illness never truly left him. Over the following years, episodes returned, each one deeper, each one longer. By 1811, the truth could no longer be ignored. George no longer recognized his wife. He believed some of his children were dead, though they were alive. At times, he thought he had already been buried. He was king in name only. Power was formally transferred to his son, who ruled in his place as Prince Regent. This moment marked the beginning of the Regency era. Britain did not collapse. The monarchy did not fall, but it changed forever. The king was no longer absolute. Parliament grew stronger. Power shifted away from the crown, all because one man could no longer rule. George spent his final years in quiet isolation at Windsor Castle. Blind, nearly deaf, confused, he wandered halls he once commanded, rooms where decisions that shaped empires had been made, but he no longer knew who he was. Some days he believed himself a simple farmer, other days a servant. Sometimes he waited for a crown that never came. The king who once ruled millions died believing himself ordinary. Even today, historians still debate what truly caused George's illness. Some believe he suffered from bipolar disorder, explaining his manic speech and extreme emotional swings. Others suggest porphyria, a genetic condition that can cause hallucinations, confusion, and severe physical pain. What is certain is this: George was not weak, he was ill, and he lived in a time when illness of the mind was met with fear instead of compassion. His suffering forced Britain to confront a difficult truth. Even kings are human. Even monarchs can break. Because of his illness, laws were clarified. Limits were placed on royal power. Parliamentary rule strengthened. Out of one man's tragedy, modern constitutional monarchy was shaped. The king who forgot he was king was not a monster, not a joke, not a failure. He was a man born centuries before understanding caught up with suffering, and his story still matters today. Because mental illness does not erase dignity, it does not erase humanity, even when it wears a crown. For more factual videos about Britain's monarchy, please subscribe. It's free and helps us build this channel.